Before we get started, anyone interested in ordering Mr. Lindell's 4-CD set, go to metaphysicalarttheater.com. For those in the U.S., you can order physical copies or the digital downloads. For those outside the U.S., you can order the digital downloads by going to metaphysicalarttheater.com.
How you doing, sir?
Just fine, thank you. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I thought you had to think about it for a second.
Yeah, actually, I do that quite often now. I used to just.
Well, you know what? It's funny that you say that because I had a talk this week and it was called The Pause. And it's really talking about, just pausing before you speak, because once you put it out there, change begins. And so that kind of leads into our talk today, the vortex. And again, when we're talking about the vortex, we're talking about the vortex of change. You say often that we're always thinking ahead of the evidence. Is that correct?
That's right. You're always thinking ahead of the evidence you're experiencing. You may not be experiencing what you're thinking at the moment, but it is always to the future, never to the past. In other words, what you're saying is not falling into the past. It's being projected into our future's experiences. And so the only way you can change the experiences you're having is to change the conversation that you're having before you have the experience. You're on all the time. You understand that's something we want to repeat over and over and over. You're always on, and you're always choosing, whether you're aware you're choosing or not. Isn't that the case?
Oh, absolutely. And I like that you brought it back to choosing, because this is really the topic today, the vortex of choice. Anytime you change your mind, every time you're choosing, you begin to set in motion a new reality. And so what we want to make you mindful of is that, like Mr. Lindell just stated, you're always on. The question is, on what?
Yes. Yeah, that is it. On what? Think about it. You're told that your whole world of experiencing is your attitude about life in general. Now, if you'll sit and you'll think about that for a little while, you're going to see that you're the one who's been causing you problems in your world of experiencing. And I know you don't want to see that, because I didn't want to see it either. And that's why it took me years to understand very simple ideas. And they are simple ideas. As you think you are, that's it. And as you are, you do, you have, you be. And as to whether you claim to be religious or not, that's not important. What is important is do you know what you're thinking feelingly about is leading you to do? Because I'll tell you, it is leading you. But make no mistake about it. You are being led if you're not leading. Isn't that right?
Oh, absolutely. So as we're talking about the leading, even if you're experiencing some trauma, or if you're in an event, something that happens, you're given to choose how you respond or react. So if you react in a way that's not becoming or taking you to where you want to go, then that's your responsibility. Don't get caught up on the world without and what's going on the without, but think about what it is that you want to bring about and begin thinking from that.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, it says, as you think you are. I mean, right there, you're told the whole story. You're the one who's choosing wisely what you're doing, or you're not choosing wisely what you're doing. In other words, you're always delivered into what you believe is so in your world. But you have a choice to believe different if it's not what is satisfying you. And you want to be satisfied. Everybody's looking to be satisfied. Everybody's looking to change something. And everything that you desire is already right with you, right here, right now. Now is the appointed hour of desired change. You have to hear this over and over and over for it to sink down to where it actually makes a difference in your thinking about what you're thinking. Does that make sense?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And you said, listen, you're the one responsible for the thinking in your world. So we're not talking about the circumstances on the without. What are you thinking about the circumstances without? Because see, that's what you're crafting. And two people can be in the exact same environment. One sees lovely and what's of a good report, and the other one sees chaos in the exact same environment. So you're given to choose.
Well, yeah, actually, that seeing chaos in the world. I mean, how many people watch television?
Yeah.
I mean, and what is there? I'd say 80% of it is the nonsense that's going on in this world. And you keep hearing that over and over. You're actually conditioning yourself to what the world is. You're not only just in the world, but you're of the world.
Yeah.
See, and that's what you're told not. You're not to be of the world. It's in chaos.
Yeah.
and if you're listening to them, then you're part of the chaos.
Yeah.
Attitude. That's what it's all about. That's what it's been about since the beginning of time. Man is his attitude. Doesn't that say it?
It does. It does. And you said, listen, if you're sitting there watching and taking part in the chaos, then of course you're bringing about some of that chaos yourself. And it's actually true, so we wonder why certain events are taking place in our lives. And we don't realize that the stuff that we're programming ourselves morning, noon, and night, it's also shaping our environment.
Yes. Hey, look. It's all yours right here, right now. But you do have to claim it. See, that's why you're told you receive not because you ask not, or you're asking amiss. See, that's the thought behind the thought. It's you battling it out right in front of at the time you're supposed to be praying. Who are you battling with? That's what I want. Who is it you're battling against? Yourself. That's who the enemy is. Yourself. You cause everything in your world of experiencing, bar none. You are as you think you are. If you get control of your thinking and your attitudes and seeing yourself in a theater of mind, because that's where we do our work of living our life, even though it takes place so subtly that we're not really aware of what we're thinking about most of the time. And that's what your problems are, isn't it?
Absolutely. And I want to touch on the subject of enemy or adversary. If your thoughts are not leading you to where you want to go, then you're battling against yourself. So at that point, it's not a being outside of you. It's not God. It's not anyone else. It's you who's battling against you, as Mr. Lindell stated. So when you start thinking in accordance to what it is that you want, then you befriend yourself. It says, how can two walk together unless there's a spirit of agreement? So conscious and subconscious mind, ego and spirit needs to agree. And once they come into agreement, you're befriending yourself.
Hey, you're either thinking about what you want or you're thinking about what you don't want. And the one you think the most of is the one you're going to be experiencing. And this is not a joke. I mean, we kid back and forth, but that is not a joke. As you think, you are, you do, you have, you be, and that's all Scripture is telling you, story after story. You be as you think you are. You do, you be, you have. It's that simple. You're the one who's in charge. And if you don't stand up and take charge, in other words, to claim your inheritance, then it's you denying yourself. And we're told that all denial is self-denial. Isn't that what we're told?
We are told that. We are told that. I want to tell a quick story along the lines of what Mr. Lindell just stated. There used to be there's this little story about an Indian that used to go into town, and he had two wolves with him. And often these wolves would battle, and people would place bets on which wolf would win the fight. And basically, somebody inquired with the Indian, because the thing was the Indian never lost a bet. They said, "How can you know which wolf is going to win the fight?" He says, "The one that I feed the most." So, as what Mr. Lindell was just stating, whatever you're giving your attention to the most, that's what's going to win the fight.
That's it. It's called your life. You understand? It's called your life, your everydayness. You're doing to yourself what it is you're complaining about. And then when you complain about it, as you think, you are, you do, you have, you experience, what are you doing to yourself? That's all. That's all. This is a psychological drama. As within, so without. So if you get the within straight, that's here in the theater of mind, in your imagination, because that's God. God is dreaming the dream right with you, but he gave you choose this day. And he's thinking, what are we doing? What are we doing? What are you doing? What are you thinking? What are you experiencing that you don't want? Stop it. Stop thinking about it. And you say, well, that's easier said than done, Lindell. Thank God it's easier said than done, because that's our part in it, is saying it. Say what you want, not what you don't want. When you go to God and you're there crying and whining, that's what you're asking for. Literally, that is your prayer. You're asking for more of the same. And subconscious mind is not going to argue with you, never going to question you. You say it, you present this model, there it is. You live it. Attitude, attitude, attitude. That's what it's all about. It's about our attitudes, about ourselves, and about our world in general, isn't it?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You said, listen, if you go whining and crying and pleading to God, that becomes the prayer. Now, some of you are asking yourself, how do I get off the cycle? Start finding something in your environment. And there's going to be a lot, if you take notice, that you can be grateful for. When you start practicing an attitude of gratitude, when you start practicing thanksgiving, when you start practicing love, when you start practicing who I can serve, all of these things will allow you to break the cycle. But if you stay on the same hamster wheel, then only thing you're going to do is continue to get what you've always gotten. You have to get off the hamster wheel and begin a new habit, as Mr. Lindell will say. You got to break the habit cycle with a new thought.
Yeah, I like that cycle on the wheel, because actually that's what people do, man. They run off all these little negative scenarios in their mind over and over and over. And then they're saying, why me? Why? As you think you are, why me? Why? What are you thinking? See, you're running off these little negative scenarios. If you didn't like them the first time, I don't know how you think they're going to improve. I mean, they really won't.
Yeah.
And you'll just get upset. And if you go around upset all the time, that not only is the upset not nice to you, it also makes you vulnerable, because you're not paying attention. And what has your life has your attention. You're paying attention to it gives whatever it is you're paying attention to life. Are you really thinking about what you want to see tomorrow, the next day, the next day? Okay. Because you're putting it together right now. Right now, you're putting together your future. Every word, you're putting it together, and that's your future. I know that People say, no, oh, no, no. It's so, though, isn't it?
It is so. It's absolutely so. As you were talking about stringing together your future, it made me think about so many people say, listen, I'm trying the techniques of Neville Goddard, Joseph Murphy. I'm doing the state akin to sleep. Now, 99% of your time is in negative thinking, but you think the few moments before going to bed or your affirmation that you may do first thing in the morning is undoing. You have to get on a new life cycle. You have to get on a new train of thought. Now, I'm not saying this is easy, but it's necessary. People will tell you, oh, yeah, you can manifest anything you want, but they're not telling you to think right, to get your thoughts together, to go into the silence. And that's why you're not getting your results. If you want the results, you have to put in the work. Nobody wants to say that. Nobody wants to say that. But if you want life change, then you got to begin to be the change.
Yeah, everybody wants it.
Yeah.
But nobody wants to do
Yeah.
what they do to do it. You're not told try anything. You're told do it. So, I mean, if he said try it, then okay, well, maybe you would or wouldn't do it. But God's not saying try it. He says do a thing, and do a thing. Come on. I mean, how wide open you want it. Do a thing, and you shall have the power, not a little, the power. So you're on if you'll be on, but you're being off is not in your favor. What are you thinking about? If you even know what you're thinking about and approving of it, that will be that'll be a milestone right there. I think that you can look, God's already given you to do so. I mean, why would he tell you to do so if he didn't know you could do so? I mean, you don't believe God? See, that's it. The question is, do you believe God's promises? And he's promised you over and over and over. He's promised you things. I forgot how many promises there were. I had them all figured out at one time, but memory. But I am with you always. I will never leave you. Omnipresent. I mean, what more is it that you really want to know? I'm telling you, he's right here with you, right here, right now. I am with you. I am, and you are, and we are. And Jesus told you perfectly, I and my Father are one, even as you and I are one. So it's all right. The physician's with you. Why are you not healed? I mean, he's a physician. Heal thyself. But he has to have your permission. See, he gave you choose this day. So once he gave you choose this day, then he's backed off from you completely. He's always the power behind everything, but he's not choosing it. You are. But what are you choosing? Just ask yourself, what are you? Well, you're experiencing it. So you can't say you don't know it. So because you're experiencing what it is you're thinking feelingly about. What is it? I mean, just ask yourself, what is it? If you know, then you'll know where you're going. If you don't know, then you don't know where you're going. And that makes you vulnerable, doesn't it?
It does. You asked the question. You said, what are you experiencing? What are you choosing? First, you asked, what are you choosing? You said, listen, if you're experiencing it, you can know what you're choosing. I want to tell each one of you a powerful truth. When you begin to take responsibility for what it is that you're experiencing, you're going to become very powerful because, see, then you're at a place of change. See, the problem is we keep blaming forces outside of ourselves. So as long as it's forces outside of ourselves that's the cause of our problem, then those problems remain. But once we take responsibility, once we take ownership, once we say, I am that, I've done that, I'm being that, when we own what's going on with the without, then we have now the possibility of change. But as long as it's forces outside of us, we have no ability to change it.
That's it. What you believe, you're delivered into.
Yeah.
That's it. What do you believe? You believe the world's going to hell in a basket? Well, okay, there you are. That's you. You have that attitude then, and then for you, that's your world of experiencing. Why always be berating rich people? I mean, they didn't all want to go out and rob a bank. I mean, some of them actually got it honestly. I mean, the government's always trying to take money away from them. I don't understand why if they earned it.
We have the ability to offer the world something, the world's willing to compensate us for it, then don't penalize us for doing what it is that we know to do. Even as talking about thinking, I understand that thinking makes it so, and I think according to what it is I want to manifest. Don't be upset with me because all of a sudden I'm manifesting a wonderful life and you're living a life of misery because you choose not to use your power of thought. It's the same principle.
Hey, that's all it is. Look, you're responsible to feel after, and you'll find. I mean, how simple you want it. Feel after, and you'll find it. What are you feeling after? Well, that's what you'll find. And you know what you're feeling after because your past talking to yourself is now your future experiencing, and you're experiencing. So you do know what you were thinking if you understand that the thinking before is what you're experiencing now. Where's your head at? If your head's there in the back, well, it's really hard to change your mind if you're thinking upon the very thing you want to get rid of. What we're talking about is a state of mind. Everybody in the world is in a state of mind. If you're not enjoying your state of mind, you're given. To the Lord belongs escape. You're given. And what is he escaping from? He's escaping from me. Because, I have private interviews and people come in and the first 5 minutes they're either blaming themselves or blaming God. I mean, they're saying, why is he doing this to me? No, why are you doing it to you? You're the one who has choice. You're the one who was told choose this day. Why did you choose that? And so, well, I didn't choose that. Well, then God made a mistake. Do you think God made a mistake?
No, I don't.
But they're not sure. See, they're not sure. They think maybe he did. I don't think he did. Do you?
No.
I wonder what kind of census we could get out of that. Look, you're responsible to inform yourself as to what to do, and you're told worshiping God is using his gifts. So therefore, you must already have the gifts if you're worshiping God. Are you using his gifts? Or did you trash him and you're using something else? Because if you're not enjoying life, then that's what you've done. You pushed him aside. You're not opening and quickening what you're told that you are, that you do, that you have, that you be. You're not paying attention to that. But that's with you every day. He says, choose this day. I don't know if you know it or not, but it's always this day. It's never a yesterday. It's never a tomorrow. It's always this day. So if you want to change something, all you have to do is change it now, today. Because you're always thinking ahead of your evidence, so of your experiencing. So therefore you have an opportunity to change your mind and change your world. And it's that simple. I mean, you can't get any simpler than that, could you?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. You said something, I want to touch on it briefly. You said, listen, a lot of times we're sitting there focusing on the things that we want to get rid of. And you said, listen, you'll never get rid of focusing on the things that you want to get rid of. And I really want the listener to hear that if everything you're focused on is, your community, your family, relationships, the bad in this, the bad in that, if those are your focus, then of course, those are the things that you're going to draw more of. It's only when you start thinking on the lovely and you determine what the lovely and the good report is. But as you begin making the shift from what you've been focusing on, the negative, to what's lovely and what's of a good report, your world's going to change. It must, but it can't change until you change what it is that you're thinking about.
I've changed you. You've changed me.
Absolutely.
I mean, hey, that's what we're here to do.
Yeah.
We're here to get ourselves in order.
Yeah.
You're told if a man would order his conversations aright, he would be shown salvation. You'd be shown the answers, the solutions. Why aren't you doing that? You're told, I'm right here with you. Just you turn to me, I'll turn to you. So he's already said yes.
Yes.
See, he doesn't say no. He says yes. If you say, well, I want to do this and I want to do that, and they're terrible, he's
Yes.
choice. That's what choice is. You are choosing whether you're aware or not. That's what you want to be aware of. You're choosing all the time. You're on all the time. Now just think in a day's time, what was your general attitude, mood, assumptions? What was it? If you can even remember a little bit of it, it'll still show you how your world is being developed moment by moment. You're always thinking ahead of your evidence, and so what you're doing is you're actually dressing your future every moment, aren't you?
Absolutely. You made me think. I speak with some very powerful people when I coach. The problem is with many of them is they don't understand how powerful they are with their thoughts. And so they give themselves to negativity. They give themselves to, depression. They give themselves to all the things that they do not want. And I tell them simply, if you want to change this, then you have to begin with your thinking. But nobody believes that it's that simple.
But actually, the thing is that you see it every day. You hear about it every day. I mean, come on. You want to know how potent your thoughts are? Here's a guy out shooting people, and he doesn't even know them.
Absolutely.
You see, so when you're given whatsoever as a potential, that's why you're also given the warning that, watch what you would think. Watch your mouth, because hey, you runneth over, you get runneth over. Whatever you believe, that's what you're getting delivered into, right?
Absolutely.
And if you talk to people and they'll say, oh, terrible this and terrible that. And if that's what they're thinking about all the time, that's what they're creating by choice, creative choosing, not creation's already finished.
Yeah.
God took care of that. But then he gave you, here it is, choose.
From it.
And you're doing so. See, that's what we're trying to convince you, that you are doing so. You are choosing. Aware or unaware, you're choosing. But choosing what? Well, what are you experiencing, right?
Absolutely. I want to go back to what you were talking about with the shooting. Now, when these events take place, everybody says, why did God allow that to happen? Now, God's given you freedom of choice, but you don't think that he can give the shooter freedom of choice. You have 8 billion people, and all of them are given to choose. Now, hopefully, we choose collectively, harmoniously, life, but that's not always the case. So, God's given, as Mr. Lindell has continuously said through this talk, when we're talking about change and the vortex of change, God's given each one of us the power of choice. So, whether it be a shooter or somebody planting a tree or somebody saving an elephant or somebody doing some good in the world, each one of them have been given to choose. Now, the bad thing is, unfortunately, with media, the good things are not going to be publicized. It's going to be the negativity that's going to be publicized. So, what you're seeing in the world, when you see that one shooting, you fail to see the tens of thousands of people that are doing good for that one person that's doing bad. What are you giving your attention to, creators?
In other words, they're giving you an attitude.
Yeah.
You see, and if you accept it, you just bought into the world then.
Absolutely.
You have to learn to think for yourself.
Yeah.
Really. Yeah. I'm not kidding you. You have to learn to think for yourself. How much of your life is lived on hearsay?
Absolutely.
Think about it. People that you believed in and believed what they said, to find out later They didn't know what they were talking about. And as you really see that this is the case, that everybody's a preacher. Everybody's preaching something.